Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, the Fossil Cup is available in the Go Battle League, and with it comes a very interesting meta. I have chosen this team with the two fighters that you don't really often see in Great League, the Escavalier and obviously the Force Palm Lucario. Very interesting Pokemon running interesting movesets as well. Let's take a look at the Fossil Cup meta and see what Lucario can do. Alright, let's head into game number 1 and see what we can do in the Fossil Cup. A Ferrothorn lead into our Mantine, not the worst lead out there, but we do have two fighters in the back. The whole thing behind this team is you want to safe swap one of the fighters right at the start if you don't get like a dominant lead with your Mantine, and make it so you can bait out a bad matchup for your backline. We do see we swap in our Lucario, and in comes that Poliwrath. Poliwrath would have a lot of play into Escav, a lot of play here, so getting it baited out, hopefully neutralizing it and getting a farm down with our own Mantine is going to be the play. They do go for Power Up Punch. It seems like Power Up Punch is a very common moveset here in the Fossil Cup, so you're probably going to be seeing that a lot. I myself am running the Power Up Punch moveset here on Lucario. I don't really like doing it, but I think it is the play. You kind of just need that speed, I think, in this meta. They go for a move here. I know that if I shield this up and it is a Thunder, they're going to take a lot of time to get to their next move, but they do bait us with a Power Whip. Good bait by them. We have a lot of energy ourselves, so Wing Attacks plus Aerial Ace are going to start chipping down this Ferrothorn quite a bit here if they want to stay in this matchup. I also know that my Escavalier is generally a pretty good Pokemon in the most part. There's a lot of things that you might not have play into in the back, but it does have a great core breaking potential here, and they actually end up swapping instead of us. They might have been anticipating that we would swap at some point, but I think at this point Mantine into Escavalier is in a great position. I know these Aerial Aces don't knock them out, but it will chip them down low enough at this point where I can counter them down, maybe put them into a range where Escavalier can sweep the backline. If they shield up this move though as well, I know I can go for a Water Pulse, probably knock them out at this point, and make it so we can win this game with our Escavalier lining up into that Ferrothorn and using our Mantine against this Escav. I'm really not sure why they swapped. They are running a double fighter team just like us, but they, I guess, really thought we'd swap at some point. They are wanting to save their Ferrothorn in the back, because obviously I did stay in that matchup. Maybe they thought I'd have like a Lantern in the back, something like that, but no, we have that secondary fighter, a counter user with Drill Run and Aerial Ace in the back. Our Escavalier is going to have a fantastic matchup here into this Ferrothorn once they dump energy into our Mantine. Normally do run Thunder on this Pokemon, so Thunder would do a decent chunk of our health on our Escav, but they need two moves to knock us out here. Even though Escav is very squishy, same with Lucario, we can easily take that game here and counter them all the way down. Alright, our next matchup, we have an absolutely terrible lead, one of the worst leads we could really see here. I have my safe swap though. Lucario is my dedicated safe swap on basically any team that we see, and in comes an Escavalier. This isn't really the best thing to see, but I think they might still have to shield this. I'm going to go for the Power Up Punch bait, hoping that they shield, and maybe going to get an extra Force Palm through to get just a little bit of extra damage. Looks like we do, and now we can farm this down with our Mantine, hopefully have a little bit more play now that our Escavalier is going to have shield advantage in the backline matchup. They do go for a move. This thing can have Aerial Ace, it can have Acid Spray as well, but most of the moves aren't going to do much damage. Ace is going to do almost nothing to us here. I know I can farm this all the way down, and even though there is that Lantern in the back, if there is something else that's kind of weak to Escav, I think maybe we'll have some play with our own Escavalier here this game. I'm going to wait just a little bit longer there to make it so I can swap out once this Lantern comes back in. I didn't want to give them a big farm down, and in comes their final pick. It is actually a Lucario here, so we can farm this all the way down. They are also running Force Palm. Is this a Power Up Punch or a Thunder Punch here? It is a Power Up Punch, so the next Force Palms will do a little bit of extra damage, but we can still get the farm down, have almost two moves loaded. A Drill Run is going to do an absolute ton to this Lantern, and I do have energy on my Mantine as well. Drill Run is going to come through. Is it going to get shielded? They actually let it go, and now I can land the next one, almost certainly get this one shielded, and I think at this point, our Escavalier is going to counter this down into range where our Mantine is going to be able to knock this out with Aerial Aces or maybe Water Pulses. We have almost two Aerial Aces. I can throw one. I know they cannot spark us down before we can get the next one off. As long as two Aces are enough to knock them out, I think we can take this game against the Lantern lead. One goes through. The second one is coming through right now. I think our Mantine has done it. It has overcome its worst matchup here with the Lantern, and we've taken the game. GG's to our opponent. Alright, what are we going to see in the next match? Hopefully not another Lantern lead, but I guess it's exactly that. We're going to play out the same exact way, though. Swap into our Lucario, try to bait something out, and maybe get a shield advantage and try to sweep with our Escavalier in the backline. Once again, going for a Thunder Punch against these Poliwraths. They don't have to shield, but some like to shield to keep a little bit of health here just so I can't flip switch, and they do end up shielding that move, and they get a full farm down here. Not the most comfortable thing to see. Obviously, we can absorb a lot of energy on Mantine, but we also know they can get a lot of moves against us. For some reason, they didn't debuff us early. I think if they debuff us instantly, they can actually try to get to 3 Icy Winds, but because they let us get a lot of non-debuffed Wing Attacks through, I might get the full farm down here before they're even going to be able to get the third move off, and that would be fantastic. That means my Mantine's still going to have some health. I'll have a lot of energy for whatever's going to come in the backline, likely that Lantern, and maybe with this shield advantage, once again, Escavalier might be able to put in a lot of work in the back. I didn't quite have my switch clock yet, so I'm going to throw this move, stall at the switch clock as much as I can, and hopefully Escavalier here is going to have a favorable matchup. Once again, it is that Lucario in the back here. Is it going to be another pup user? We get a sneak there. That's fantastic to see. We shield the move because I know I need to shield something in this game, and it's just going to be a Thunder Punch. This means they're not going to get a lot of damage with these fast moves. We get the full farm down, and now our Escavalier is in an even better spot than last game. Even though Lantern is a terrible lead, our Escavalier is the core breaker, and we can get these 2 drill runs off and put them very low. It gets them so low at this point that even my Mantine, if it has to come back in here, I know I can just win with that air release. They realize that they're going to get fast move down. GG's, once again, a Lantern lead overcome. All right, Mantine into Poliwrath. A bit of a break on these bad leads here. One of the best leads we can see in this cup, and in comes the Ferrothorn. We do have 2 very strong answers to this in the backline, but I think that Escavalier is probably the better thing to bring in here, especially because I have Air Release. I can throw that against that Poliwrath if it comes back in, and potentially have a lot more play against it later on. And here they go for the Thunder. Obviously, Thunder almost gets us into the red, but not quite. I try to CMP on a potential Power Whip, but they don't go for it. But I still know I get this move. I get the knockout if they don't shield it, and we can take switch advantage here, have enough energy to Air Release that Poliwrath if it comes back in, and hopefully have play with our backline with our Lucario here. In comes that Poliwrath. We get to the ace at the last second. I know for sure this isn't going to knock out, but it puts him so much more into a comfortable farm down range for our Mantine, or maybe into a range where a Power Up Punch or Force Palms from our Lucario could knock them out there. In comes the Lantern. This is actually super awkward, but we have Power Up Punch, we have Force Palm, a very damaging fast move. As long as we can get shields with our Power Up Punches, do as much fast move pressure as we can, I think we might still be in a decent spot this game. Power Up Punch is going to come through. It is probably not going to get shielded, but I'd love it if it was. What are they going to do here? They end up shielding a pup bait. That is fantastic for us. Honestly, at this point, they're kind of forced to do that, though, right? Because these pups plus these Force Palms, look how low they're getting already just with fast move pressure. We have another Power Up Punch loaded right now. If they don't shield this, they're going to get knocked out through fast moves. If they do shield it, they have to shield a pup, and I'm almost at the third at this point. We get the move through. They do have to shield it off, and now we have the final move. We get the full farm down even. We have the Thunder Punch against the Poliwrath. Lucario just farming down a full health Lantern there with Force Palm with Power Up Punch. It's a really stupid moveset, but I really loved using it today. All right, our next opponent, what will they have for us? Yet another Lantern lead, one of the worst leads to see, but we're going to play it out the same way we have been, swap to our Lucario here, and try our best to get shield advantage. This time, the Poliwrath that answers us is a Shadow, which means these Thunder Punches will threaten them quite a bit more, but this also means that we'll probably get a guaranteed shield no matter what here. They get a full farm down, they're a bit over half health at this point, and because I'm running Force Palm, we didn't get that move through when they got their counter. That means that we don't have as much ship as I'd like. They might be able to get to 3 moves here. If that is the case, this is a very bad matchup. If they do get to 3, that will knock us out or potentially draw a shield from us, and that is not what we want to see. I think our Mantine is going to be pivotal this game to have a little bit of energy, a little bit of play. So if I can keep my Mantine alive, if I can farm this down, that's going to be critical. All right, another Icy Wind comes through. Can I get the farm down before they get to another move here? They throw after 5. That's a Power Up Punch. I was not expecting that. I should have been, but they throw this move. It's going to knock us out now. We're going to let all of this energy go to waste. I just have to bank on our Escav up shields, having played into their backline matchup. In comes that Lantern, so it looks like they might be a little bit weak to our Escav here. If that is the case, maybe there's still a little bit of hope, but I know these counters are not putting them into drill run range. It's not going to quite knock them out here, not from full health, so I need to shield another move here if I want to have any play. We go for the CMP. I know, though, this is not enough to knock them out. They can probably no-shield this, draw our last shield with the Surf, and if they have a Pokemon in the back that's not just super weak to me, they can still get the win this game. I'm going to shield this up. I kind of have to. A Surf would basically knock us out at this point. We have a lot of energy. Is there something in the back that we can one-shot? Not quite. It's a Lucario, but they just get to a move here, which means that we can't have play against this. If I had my Mantine still around with all of that energy that went to waste, maybe we could have flipped something here, but we didn't have it. They had the Power Up Punch, and they surprised us with that. GG's to them. All right, next matchup here, Jellicent into our Mantine. Very neutral matchup, and our fighters in the back hate seeing this, so seeing this on our Mantine here is absolutely critical to get it out of the way. They are likely going to go for Shadow Balls here. I have Wing Attack, I have Air Release. I have a very consistent matchup here. As long as I can chip it down into range where we can either farm them down with Escav or with Lucario, then I'm not going to be super worried about this. I don't want to dump a lot of shields here because my backline is very squishy. Both Escavalier and Lucario are about as squishy of Pokemon as it gets here, as long as you're not running Shadows. So it makes it so you really want to save shields if you can for those Pokemon. Air Release does come through, does a lot of damage, and they almost let us get that next move off. We don't quite throw it, but they swap. They try to catch on their Registeal here. I do have a very hard answer to Reggie here with our Escavalier. If I came in with Lucario, I'd have to shield a Focus Blast, but knowing that Escav doesn't take any super effective damage here, I can no-shield this, barely survive it, and get to 2 drill runs, hopefully, so I can get a shield or get a knockout against this Registeel. We can get this move off. Is it going to knock them out? They did get a debuff, so maybe not, but can we get the counter down here? We barely don't, but they have to throw their energy here. I know I can get an energy lead with either one of my Pokemon that I had in the backline. Either my Mantine can get an extra wing attack, or I can get some Force Palms with my Lucario. But go for the wing attack here. I don't want to show my third just yet. What do they have in the back? It's going to be a Shadow Alolan Sandslash. They likely have to shield this, and if they do, then I think my Lucario at this point can just sweep this game, going for Force Palms, going for Power Up Punches, because this Jellicent is so low. I know they have a Surf here. I have to shield this, and if I do, and if I get enough of an attack boost from these Power Up Punches, and if I get a shield here, I know this game is just over. They have to shield this pup. It's not going to do anything to them, but it's going to do enough to knock them out at this low health range. They have to shield it up on a Jellicent. That is so sad to see for them. I know I can counter this. Not even counter. This is a Force Palm user. I can Force Palm this down and Force Palm down that Alolan Sandslash and sweep the backline here with our Lucario. Good game to them. Lucario putting in a lot of work against that A-Slash. All right, our next opponent, what are they running? The Shadow Magnezone lead, another very bad lead to see here. The one saving grace about that matchup, though, is it's not quite as bad as the matchup for Mantine into Lantern. We obviously have neutral play with our Water Pulse, but in comes the Ludicolo for some reason to answer our Lucario. I go for the Thunder Punch here. I probably should have gone for the Pup, knowing that if this is what they bring into Lucario, it likely means that they're very weak to me in the backline. They want to get rid of our Lucario. They're probably going to shield anyway, and now that we get this next move off, are they going to double shield? They do. I'm totally fine with that double shield here. I think that if they're weak to one counter user, maybe my other one's going to have a lot of play in the backline. But with that said, they've already shown Magnezone and Ludicolo, two Pokemon that just hard lose to Escap. So what is their third Pokemon going to be? I'm going to show this up. Leaf Storm would basically one-shot us. Well, not quite, right? It would do a lot, though. It'd probably get us below half health. I want to keep some health here because I know Water Pulse is still going to have a lot of play against their Magnezone potentially. And their final Pokemon is a Poliwrath. All right, so they probably would have wanted to bring that Poliwrath against our Lucario. But, if they did do that, then my Escap in the back just core breaks them super hard. So either way, we'd be in a great spot this game. Poliwrath will probably go for Icy Winds, might go for Power-Up Punches, but I know no matter what here this game, as long as I knock out this Poliwrath, I think Mantine can close out the backline. We can get this farm down. Not quite. We go for the Air Release actually, but now that we get this knockout here, I can get 2 more counters against that Magnezone, put the zone into range where I might knock them out with a Water Pulse, and hopefully Mantine in the backline should be able to close this out. As long as they don't get a debuff here with a Mirror Shot or something crazy like that, I think we can win this game. If they do debuff us, that is so bad to see, but we'll just have to see. They go for the bait. Is it going to debuff? Luckily not. Water Pulse is coming through. Is it enough to knock out a Shadow Magnezone here? Can Mantine flip one of its worst possible matchups? Once again, it can. GG's to our opponent, Shadow Magnezone, very fun pick, but our backline was very hard for them to deal with. All right, next game, we have the Mantine into the Escavalier here. Fantastic lead and a Ludicolo safe swap. So unlike the last game where we lost the lead and saw the Ludicolo, this time we won the lead and they safe swap a Ludicolo into our Mantine. That's amazing for us to see, but I don't really know what this means could be in the back. Probably some sort of hard answer here to our Mantine. I'm guessing a Lantern as their third. So I want to stay in this matchup. I know this is a good matchup, and I also know I have play against their other Pokemon in the backline because we have our own Escavalier. We have our Lucario as well. What are they going to bring in now? We're going to see that it's a Lantern, and I don't want to stay in that matchup. I know that if Mantine's still around, it's going to make it so that life of that Escavalier is still very uncomfortable. I'm going to come in with our Lucario. I can shield up here. I know that I have a lot of play up energy into both Escav and into Lantern, so saving my health here, going for that shield, and now going for Thunder Punch to try to strip this down as much as possible is going to be fantastic for us. They let it go, and now in comes the Escav. I'm going to throw the Thunder Punch myself here. I want to get either a lot of damage or a shield from them. They are saving their shields for something in this game. I don't know quite what. We don't get a shield there. They're just saving shields at this point for their Lantern. That's a crazy play knowing that I had a Mantine lead, so they're going to have 2 shields for their Lantern in the back. I'm probably going to get a farm down here. Probably can get a Water Pulse or an Air Release against their Lantern, and they'll probably have to shield that, even though it is resisted. I get the full wing attack down. We have a Water Pulse. I know I won't get to 2 moves, so just go for the bigger move. And at this point, even though I don't really need this damage, I know I can counter them all the way down with our Escavalier, hopefully just knock them out here. If they land a Thunderbolt, it might be a little bit uncomfortable here, but I'm pretty sure Escav at this point is going to be able to get the counters. It's going to knock out this Lantern, and we can probably take the game here with Escavalier countering this thing down all the way in the back. We get the next counters. They get a move. Are they at Surf plus Thunderbolt? That is the one way we lose this game, is if this is a bait and they can throw that Thunderbolt right after. I might even survive, but that would be their one-win con. They got the bait, but we get the counter down before they get the move. GG's to our opponent. Our next game matchup is against yet another Ludicolo. All right, well, we're having a lot of good leads here. A lot of Ludicolos for some reason in the last couple of sets here, but we'll go for the Air Release, but they make a fantastic catch, but it's on their own Mantine. I am actually really fine with this, especially because our backline is still very strong into Ludicolo, and honestly, our backline is so weak to Mantine at this point that getting this here and making it so I can neutralize it in this matchup is going to be fantastic for us to see. Air Release does come through. It's going to trip it down, so the next Air Release will either put them into farm down range or basically threaten the shield at this point. I don't know how they want to play this out, though. Some are running Ice Beam, some are running Air Release, Water Pulse like me. What is their second moveset? We go for the Air Release. If they have Ice Beam, they can probably knock us out here with the next move, whereas mine probably doesn't. What moveset is their Mantine running? It is going to throw a move at the last second. I know I can counter this down. I know I don't really need switch when I know that Ludicolo is not super useful. So I'm going to no-shield this. It is an Ice Beam, so they do knock us out there, and Escavalier is going to get that farm down. I don't think they can bring that Ludicolo in here. I resist Grass very heavily with this Pokemon, so we're likely going to see the third or not. They were just so weak to Escav back once their Mantine was gone. GG's to our opponent there. Alright, next game against a Poliwrath lead. A great lead for Mantine, but our Pokemon in the back want to avoid this, so switch advantage this game is going to be absolutely critical. In comes the Shadow Wiscash. I'm assuming they're probably running Blizzard. At least I was until they threw a Scald immediately here. I can no-shield this. At this point, I know for a fact Mantine is in a great spot. It is core breaking their team very hard. We go for the Water Pulse here, and I want to see, are they going to shield this or are they going to let it go? They end up shielding their Wiscash against a Mantine. That's kind of a crazy shield in my opinion, but I guess it makes sense if they're just weak to me in the back. I know at this point, though, I need to save my Mantine a little bit. My backline hates that Poliwrath. I can at least get a little bit of play with Escav here into their Shadow Wiscash, so swapping it in, getting up a lot of energy just in case that Poliwrath comes back in and I can air release them is going to be a good play for us. They're going to throw a move. It's a Mud Bomb, though. We survived that pretty easily. We're going to build up as much energy as we can, CMP them here on the next attack, but they make a nice catch, although that was an air release catch on their Poliwrath. I'd probably throw this anyway, and now what are they going to be able to do here is a Shadow Poliwrath. That move is going to do a lot of damage. We get to yet another ace, so either we keep switch advantage or they're going to have to go down 2 shields this game if they want to knock us out. They end up letting it go, and now their final Pokemon is still a question, but we want to see if that Wiscash comes back in. It is a Lantern as their third. Mantine needs to avoid this at all costs. Lucario here, it's going to be in a bit of a tricky spot because I know there's a Mud Bomb still loaded on that Wiscash, and I know I have to shield these Surfs. Lucario is very squishy. If I let this go, I basically get knocked out by these fast moves, and if I shield this up, and if I double shield basically with our Lucario here, we will be in a bit of an uncomfortable position. I'm going to go for the Power Up Punches, though. I know I need to do as much damage as I can in this matchup, and I'm going to CMP on this Power Up Punch. I knew at this point that if I go for the CMP here, I can guarantee damage. I might have given them a sneak if they ended up going for it, but I know for a fact that giving them that free energy there would not be a good play, so we're going to go for the CMP and make it so our Lucario still has some play here. They go for 1 extra Spark, and then they swap into their Wiscash. At this point, I got so much damage against their Lantern that I know that a Water Pulse or maybe even an Air Release could still knock them out at this point. Overfarm a little bit. I don't want to take a Scald, and now as long as they don't get to a Thunderbolt or farm us down or really just get a lot of damage and then surf us, we should be able to win this game. They have just a little bit of HP. I know Mantine doesn't have a lot of damage against this, but this is well within range where Air Release will knock them out, and Mantine able to once again take out an Electric type here in the Fossil Cup. Alright, well, Mantine lead into yet another Electric type lead, the Magnezone, non-Shadow this time though, so that's going to be a little bit interesting. It means that our Water Pulse is not going to do as much damage, and we are met with our Lucario with a Poliwrath, non-Shadow, which means they don't have to shield this. I'm probably not going to get much of an advantage if they know how to play this out, but they do shield that attack up. They wanted to guarantee switch, and now Mantine is going to have a lot of work ahead of it. I'm going to try to go for a farm down, but I don't think I quite can. I probably have to throw energy right before they get to their third Icy Wind. Poliwrath is going to spam out as many moves as it can here. First Icy Wind does come through. It obviously doesn't do that much damage, but they start adding up over time. The next move is going to be thrown by this Poly. I need to keep as much energy here as I can so I can either try to go for a Water Pulse against that Magnezone or maybe use it as an energy sponge here later on in the game. We'll have to see what our opponent wants to play it out like. What is their third Pokemon going to be? I'm hoping Escavalier once again is going to be able to bail me out in the backline. Maybe it's the Core Breaker I need, or maybe they can just RPS us here with another Pokemon in the back that Escav does not want to see. We see the Magnezone come back in, and their third Pokemon is a Jellicent. Alright, well that's not a great matchup here, but Drill Run plus Counter will be able to two-shot them eventually here. If they go for a Shadow Ball and I do shield it up properly, there's a chance I can outpace them to these moves, maybe get a bit more damage out of my Escav against that Magnezone, but if they go for Surfs, I don't think there's much play here. They can probably just spam out Surfs, survive moves, and it looks like they know the play. They know to just start spamming out these moves, make it so I take as much guaranteed damage as possible. I know it's just a Surf. I have to try to survive this because they're going to get to another one anyway, and this Drill Run needs to knock out if I want any chance of winning this. Drill Run will come through, will it get the knockout? Just barely not. And now I think they get the Hex down here against us, and they have a Shadow Ball loaded. They still have a Magnezone. I think they have us here. Just a bit of an RPS matchup against us, but GG's to them. I tried my best to overcome this, and even though we didn't, I think I still set myself up for a decent win condition if it wasn't just the hardest counter in the back. Our next lead here into a Registeel, another bad lead, but we haven't seen this yet today, so let's see what their backline is going to be. A Jellicent comes in to answer my Lucario safe swap. We obviously have Thunder Punches. Lucario also has access to Shadow Ball potentially. They don't know our moveset, so I'm going to build up to it at the very least, make it so they have to consider shielding this, and make it so they have to start shielding before I do. I knew that was just a Surf that they threw, so I can no-shield that, make it so I guarantee shield advantage by going for double Thunder Punch, and now I'm going to trip them down, bait out the Jellicent, make it so maybe Escavalier is going to have play in the back, and hopefully Mantine's going to be able to neutralize this as much as possible, get it into a range range where Escavalier is going to have as much of an energy lead, as much as a shield advantage as it can. We do tank moves here. The one good thing about Registeel into our Mantine is it has no fast move pressure. This charge move means nothing to us. That Zap Cannon would one-shot us one way or another, so taking that move is totally fine by me. I get a bit of an energy lead, I neutralize a Jellicent, and I get a shield advantage for my backline Pokemon, and my Mantine still is just about as bad into that matchup as the Registeel as it was before, so it doesn't really matter taking that Shadow Ball. In comes that Reggie, we swap to our Escav, and their final Pokemon, one of the few Dragon types in the meta, the Kingdra. That's an interesting Pokemon to see, but I think Escavalier here is going to be able to resist all of the Dragon Breath damage. If we get debuffed, that could be a little bit uncomfortable for us, but if we don't, and we can core break them here with our Escav, I think we can sweep the backline, going for counters, going for drill runs against that Registeel, and we might just have what it takes to win this game, once again, using our Escavalier to sweep the backline. We get this drill run off. We luckily did not get debuffed by that Octazooka. Drill run will likely get the knockout here, and now that this Reggie is down shields, it's down health, we're going to be able to sweep the backline. Escav almost at the drill run, and at this point I know even if they debuff us, I can just clear the debuff, come in with my Mantine, force them to throw a Zap Cannon there. There is no way they can win this game. I can come into Mantine now, store the energy, and what are they going to do? They have to throw a Zap Cannon here, but the second they do, they just instantly lose. I have a Drill Run, I cleared the debuff, I almost have 2 even at this point, so their only win con is farming me down and somehow having me lag a turn, not get my move off, but they don't. We get our Drill Run, we just knock out the Registeel here with our Escav. GG's for our opponent, overcoming the Registeel lead with our Mantine. All right, our next opponent, what are they going to have for us here? And, oh my goodness, I cannot catch a break with these leads right now. Another Lantern, and in comes our Lucario. We're just playing it out as much as we can, like the last couple of games that we've seen these Lantern leads. Go for the Shadow Ball bait against this Jellicent, and hopefully get a shield advantage, make it so our Escav is set up as much as possible for our backline. Thunder Punch does come through, we get a shield. As I said, that could be a Shadow Ball, right? So they do have to respect it quite a bit there. They CMP us actually on this move, which means not only will we get a shield, but we'll get a lot of damage against this Jelly, make it so our Mantine can have a very easy time farming this down and have a very nice matchup, hopefully, for our backline Escavalier. We do get farmed down here, unfortunately, but Mantine comes in, it can absorb energy here, and I know that even though Mantine is useless this game, having that shield advantage absorbing energy here from this Jellicent is going to be our best play to winning this game. If we can core break their team once again with our Escav, it seems like Escav's just been doing that to a lot of opponents. It is a very interesting typing Bug and Steel, and then also having Fighting and Ground coverage. It's a really Pokemon to have a ton of coverage for, so I can see why it's giving opponents a lot of trouble here. They come in with their Lantern, they are staying in, which gives me a little bit of hope. Maybe there's something in the back that we have play into, but maybe they know they can just strip shields here, survive a drill run, and maybe even still win the game with their Lantern with whatever their third Pokemon's going to be in the backline. We get the CMP on this drill run. It's going to put them very low at this point, to the range where even if they do let it go, I think Mantine could knock them out, but they do end up shielding that. I'm going to have to shield myself. What is their third Pokemon going to be this game? Can Escavalier overcome it? We have another drill run now. I want energy just in case it's something in the back. I need to outpace. What is their third Pokemon? They haven't swapped out. Mantine is still alive. We have our Escav with a bit of energy. Their third Pokemon is a Ferrothorn. All right, I think we still have play here. I can swap in, try to catch a move here. Unfortunately, we don't quite get it, but if we land an Aerial Ace, I think this puts them into range where we can actually knock them out with a drill run. I know they have Power Whip loaded. They have, I think, 100 energy basically right now, so they have to throw a Power Whip here, but I have the drill run. They have to throw a Thunder against my Escavalier as well if they want to knock me out. I can do one counter, I can throw the drill run and guarantee the knockout here. Once again, Escavalier in the backline, just core breaking teams, sweeping with an energy and shield advantage, and taking out the Ferrothorn there. GG's to our opponent. Alright, our next game, Mantine lead into yet another terrible matchup, the Registeel. Not what you want to see. Save swap Lucario, though, it's been putting in a lot of work for us. I'm going to try to do it once again, and we are answered by their own Force Palm Lucario. We have Power Up Punch. We're going to throw this to try to get a shield here. If they do shield, we're in a good spot. If they no shield, it's a little bit awkward. And they do shield, but we get a Simul KO. We get not switch advantage quite yet, but we do end up getting shield advantage this game. If Mantine has played into the backline matchup, and we get switch here, we could win this. Well, shoot. That is a Lantern. So they were running ABA strong, I guess, into Mantine. They had Registeel in the lead, they had this Lantern in the back, and they had Lucario as well. They're just triple weak to ground with this team, so oh man, if I would have come into Escavalier here, I just win this game, right? I have a shield advantage, I drill run this, I drill run the Reggie, I counter everything down. But yeah, giving them this much energy, I think at this point, it's just game over. They have so many surts they can throw against us. Even though we had a shield advantage, even though we technically got switch, we didn't have our Mantine against that Reggie. Them having a Lantern in the back, like, I could not have read that for the life of me here. They're going to be able to get a ton of damage here, make it so I'm not even going to be able to get a move off against that Reggie, or at least they'll be able to survive a move and get a Focus Blast against us. I don't know. This meta, guys, it's a bit of a crazy meta here. I'm trying to play it out just in case there's like any play, but they also stored up a lot of energy before swapping out, so they're almost at the next move. I'm going to go for the bait to try to get a drill run off just in case, but they let it go. Like, what am I going to do there? GG's to them. I could have won that if I came in Escav. That's all I'm going to say. All right, next game here against the Kartana lead, much more favorable than these Reggies and these Lanterns that we've been seeing, but they are staying in here, so makes me wonder what they might have in the backline if they're going to try to stay in this matchup. I'm going to throw the Aerialist, do my best to trip it down, maybe get a shield advantage, and then bait out a potential fighter in the backline by coming in with my Lucario. These Force Palms doing a lot of damage, and there it is, the Poliwrath in the back. We had to bait this out, and now these Thunder Punches are going to do a lot of damage. Do they want to let it go, or are they going to shield this attack? They let it go, which means now they've lost basically 2 Pokemon this game, and I have my Mantine. I can absorb the energy here. Escav is set up to be in a good spot, but is it going to be in a great spot? We obviously have seen that they have that Kartana in the lead. Kartana's one big weakness here is the Escavalier, so there is a chance this game that Escav is going to be hard countered in the back and might be like their own Mantine. But what is going to come in here? It's a Water Gun Lantern. All right, so that's actually super interesting to see. Water Gun Lantern, not the most common pick. I think Spark has been the most common variant of Lantern I've seen in this meta, but we can chip it down a little bit, try to stall out our switch clock as much as possible, and I think I see my win condition this game. I can get to 2 drill runs, right? But this is using a 1-turn fast attack. They have such a huge energy lead. They can actually get the Surf on CMP with my 2nd drill run. What this means is I have a very tough call to make. Will I go instantly and throw the drill run? Or am I going to call that they're going to try to catch here? I can throw the drill run instantly, right? But if I make the wrong call here, if they end up catching right when I throw my move, I'm in a bad spot. So I'm just going to do fast moves. I'm going to anticipate the catch here. I'm going to keep tapping, keep tapping. I see the Kartana come in, and now I have the drill run. If they caught that move, if I would have thrown it instantly, I would have lost that game. But reading the catch there, getting the win against this Kartana team, was able to just barely pull it out with our Escav, once again closing up the backline. GG's for our opponent. This video was mainly featuring Lucario, but I think Escavalier plus Lucario is just such a strong duo, right? We have Lucario that against most things in the meta, it's going to be able to get a shield from it. It's going to give us shield advantage for our Escav, and then Escav in the backline, able to core break so many different teams. It was a really fun duo to use, and even though I'm not a huge fan of the Fossil Cup meta, I think this team was a lot of fun to use, and if you want to use this team, I definitely recommend it. It is not the spiciest team, but I am using Lucario and Escav, so it does have a little bit of spice factor on it, right? Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. I stream Pokemon Go PvP nearly every day at twitch.tv/ItsAXN, so if you want to see this kind of content live, make sure to check me out there. Also, I'm going to upload a lot more to the channel, so if you want to enjoy this content more in the future, make sure to subscribe. Alright, everyone, well, thank you again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.